Whilst cameras have got better and better at shooting in low light, there are still a few things that you can do to get better footage. I know this might sound obvious, but perhaps you don't realise the extent that I mean this. Perhaps I should rephrase this tip to use the fast lens at all costs. I don't care if you have a £500 f1.8 lens and a £5,000 f4 lens. When it comes to low light, the cheaper f1.8 is always going to give you better footage. If you're trying to decide between a zoom lens, which, while slower, gives you more versatility, or a prime lens that's much faster, but which could mean you miss out on some shots, 100% go for the prime lens. Quality over quality and all that, it's better to get one good shot than 4 mediocre ones. I'm sure you know that raising your camera's ISO starts to introduce noise to your footage. With that in mind, you might be tempted to hold off bumping up the ISO, underexposing your image, and bumping up the brightness in post. Well, from many past experiences, I can tell you that this is not the way to go about getting good looking footage. When you try and lift any dark areas in your footage, unless you're shooting in RAW, then your image is going to fall apart and look all mushy and horrible. Any information that might be in the dark parts of your image will have been destroyed by compression. There's no recovering the detail lost in the shadows. However, if you expose properly, then you can use noise removal to get rid of the noise, or simply lower the shadows a little, which can also hide noise in your image. Slow motion is cool. Everyone likes slow motion. But when it comes to low light, you need to be careful and use it sparingly. You'll get away with filming brighter subjects, but everything else will be much noisier than it would have been at normal 24 or 25p. The reason behind this is the 180-degree shutter rule. This says that for normal looking motion, your shutter speed needs to be double your frame rate. So for 24 or 25p, that means a shutter speed of 1/50. However, if you're shooting in 60 or 120 fps for some slow motion, then your shutter speed would need to be 1/120 or 1/240 respectively. Faster shutter speeds let less light hit the sensor, making your image darker. To combat this, you'll raise the ISO and, you guessed it, increase the noise in your image. Just because you're shooting in low light doesn't mean that you can't use available light. If you want to film something that's bright, great. You won't raise your ISO as much to film it. But if you find a bright object, like a light source, that you don't want to film, position yourself between said bright object and whatever it is you're filming. The bright object in question will illuminate your subject and allow you to lower your ISO. If you want to get a little more creative, then position the bright object at an angle behind your shoulder, using it as a key light. You can get some really interesting shots using the contrast in brightness. No, this isn't a metal song or me becoming a supervillain. If you're shooting something that's meant to be dark, then you can let it be dark. My favourite example of this is silhouettes. Using a bright light to highlight the edges of your subject can create some really moody and interesting shots. If you're shooting a dimly lit alleyway with some neon signs in it, try exposing for the neon signs and letting the alley be enveloped in darkness. Just keep a firm hold of your camera in case someone decides to nick it. After all, you are in a dark alleyway.